are you listening to? Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn.
All right, welcome to another episode of Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. We're glad you could join us tonight. We have an exciting guest this evening, Representative Mark Strong, who's going to be talking about some election bills. One is a municipal election bill, and another one is dealing with ballots. And so let's go to you, Representative Strong. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Well, I just can't believe that the word exciting, Mark Strong, were all used in the same sentence. They just know how those fit together.
Well, we might find different things exciting than normal people. Okay?
Yeah, we're like, we are wonks, and this kind of stuff is exciting. But so, there's nothing going on regarding elections. There's no public interest in elections. Why would you just take a sleepy topic like elections?
And it's completely
do anything.
non-controversial, especially this year, right?
Well, so are you asking me that now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, interesting thing. I was listening to the news the other night, I can't remember where I heard it, and they were saying, there's a poll out that says 94% of Utahns think that Utah's elections are secure. Some number like that. It was very high.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably some truth to that. I think people are fairly comfortable with Utah and our processes for the most part. I am, but nationwide, that's not the case. And so, in fact, the other night I was in a town hall meeting, and I have a guy as a constituent. He was at the meeting anyway, and he said he taught at Slick, and he asked his students, "How many of you have confidence? Raise your hand if you have confidence in our election process." And he says not a single person raised their hand. So,
wow.
Now, I don't know if that's a reflection of Utah or a reflection on, what we saw in the news, or, Trump brought this on. I mean, there's 100 things you can talk about, and it's not scientific, but there's a college class, and there's a professor, and that was his response. And so, how the process works, several weeks back, I had a priority, and I just had this feeling I need to do an election bill. And so I pulled the priority, and I called it Election Integrity Amendments, and I didn't even know what it was going to say. Well, then when the session started, I started talking to a few people, and there was a study done by the Salt Lake County Republican Party. They went and did some auditing, and where were some gaps they thought we could, fill in some gaps and fill in some holes. And so there were three of us that took ideas that had priorities and said, okay, I'll do this, you do that, and you do that. And I really don't know the details of the other bills because I've been focusing on mine, but I kind of took on, we'll call it poll watching and those sort of things. So I have a bill file. It passed through the House pretty well yesterday. And we'll have it in the Senate probably on Monday.
So what kinds of questions have been asked by those or concerns expressed by those who haven't been supportive? Have you had many people say that they have a problem with this bill altogether?
With my bill?
Yeah.
No. In fact, I'm calling my bill, and when I presented it in committee and again on the floor yesterday, I said, I'd like to retitle my bill, not officially, but I'm calling it the Belt and Suspenders Bill. So, something where both belts and suspenders isn't too fashionable, first of all. And second of all, their pants aren't going to fall down, right? And so my bill is just we kind of went through and saw some areas where we saw some gaps. I've been working with all the, with Ricky Hatch, Ricky and Curtis Cook, I think, or Koch. He's Davis County, and Roseanne Mitchell. She's down in Utah County, and she actually lives in my area here in Riverton. And Lieutenant Governor's office, Ryan Cowan, and Lieutenant Governor, and we're kind of going through. And when they first saw it, they had a few questions and concerns, and then we've just been working through them. And I've invited some of the people that helped the Republican Party draft their or do their little audit. And so I kind of refer to them, it's not fair, but I just call them, they're my tinfoil hat people. So they're maybe the more extreme right, or they're concerned about it. And they've been in all the phone calls with us. And they say, well, what do you think about this? There's been a little bit of discussion, like, okay, I can live with that. And the other side's like, okay, that's a fair balance. And we're just kind of putting some guardrails around some things that probably aren't a problem. But my whole thing is I don't want Utah to be on the news saying, oh, these poll watchers got stuck in a corner. So one thing we did in the bill is we said, hey, you've got to be within 6 feet of the process. And then if there's a process that's on a television screen or computer monitor they can't see, you have to project it on the wall. Or you could have a small monitor that you pull right in front of the poll watchers. So that's that's one thing that we added to the bill. And the clerks were like, great. I met with the clerks again today. And they said, we passed through the House, we're going into the Senate, and they're like, hey, we got a little issue with something. So when they transport ballots, they go pick up a box and transport it. They're like, if you say you have to be within 6 feet, what if somebody says you can't have that ballot away from 6 feet from me, and they're going to want to ride in your truck? So we said, well,
sounds reasonable.
You can go there. You can be with them 6 feet from the ballots. They're going to put it in their truck, but then we carved it out to say, except for that. Now you can follow that car straight to where they're going, or that van, or whatever it is, but probably not going to be able to be.
Well, because honestly, if you think there are shenanigans with ballots and pallets of ballots, it's not going to happen when people are 6 feet. It's going to be when boxes start packing into cars. If you believed in that kind of thing, which we do have some evidence of that in other states.
Well, I talked to I can't remember if it was Curtis or Ricky. In some areas they'll send election workers to go pick up polls. In their areas, I think one of them said that in the bigger counties they actually have a sworn-in election official picking up the ballots. 2 of them. They're always in pairs. So I'm like, okay, and maybe I should add that in the bill. Say that they always need to have 2 people. So
So I have heard some comments made in our state that there are concerns that people are losing faith in elections, so we need to just stop talking about it so that they can have more confidence. Give me your thoughts about how that really plays out, right? If some of us have some concerns, if public officials just stop talking about it, do you really think that's going to assuage our concerns?
Well, obviously I say no, because I've got a bill file, and again, I really do feel like, especially after meeting with these clerks like I have been, these are people, they're elected officials. If they're doing something wrong, we sure hope that there's poll watchers and there's people in their districts that are watching and paying attention and get them out of office. But the people that I've met with so far, I feel they're good people, and we sure hope they are, and they're elected officials, and I'm comfortable, at least with the people I've met with so far.
I think the thing that is so crazy to me about even the discussion is some people that are resistant to the notion of shoring up election integrity. Definitely even like a lot of resistance toward audits and things like that. And I think why is there so much concern about making this tighter and more accountable and sort of relieving our crisis of confidence? And what's wrong with audits? Every other aspect of government is subject to audits. And yet, we even had the Lieutenant Governor Henderson say, audits are not in the best interest of, of our system.
I obviously disagree with that.
Yeah.
I obviously disagree with that. And I think we should have some very targeted audits, as we do with everything we do. Every penny we spend gets audited. Why would we not have our most valued core value? If in some way I'm an illegitimate candidate because we have a bad process, or any of us are, then, well, we lost.
Okay, as you're saying that, there's a cuckoo clock going off audibly in the background. While you're talking about election integrity, there's a cuckoo sounding in the background. That's awesome.
So yeah, tell us. Oh, okay.
How appropriate.
So tell us about a few more things that your bill does. There are a number of provisions in here. You mentioned one.
Yeah, so the one is 6 feet. The other is just to have some consistent reporting before and after the mail-in ballot. So we have one section that is going to require a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday report of the total number of the ballots in possession and that have been processed, are in process, or waiting to be processed. And those three numbers should equal the total. And that's every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you're a small county, if you don't do any ballot processing over the weekend, you don't have to report on Monday, because it'll just not be. No, we didn't remove the reporting on Monday. I'm getting my government here is talking to me.
Well, and
No,
Oh, go ahead.
Well, we have that, and then we continue after the election that then during the canvass that they will report, the ballots received, ballots not cured, ballots not processed, awaiting replication or duplication, and having been duplicated. So again, we got 6 categories that should equal the total number of ballots, and then that will add up to, those numbers should all match, and they have to report that on a regular basis, just so people want to check, they can check. Here's everything we have. Here's where it's at.
Yeah, that should give us a lot more confidence than some of us had in some numbers that came out of Salt Lake County, I think in the last election, right? Where we had numbers that were very inconsistent, that didn't make sense, that didn't add up, that were changing from day to day. I think sometimes it was even within a day. Numbers would go down and shift. And I really appreciate this reporting requirement. They do have a responsibility to the public.
The clerks came to me today and said, hey, this is really hard to give an exact number. Can we just use the word estimate each day? And so we said, well, let's think about that, and in the end, the clerks with me, this wasn't my decision. I said, here's the problem with the word estimate. That's very broad. It could mean a lot of things. And I said, it actually put the clerks at a little bit of in a tight spot. If you estimate one day and then you estimate the next and you have these inconsistencies.
Yep.
And they said, well, the problem is in my bill, it said you had to report this by 5 o'clock. Well, if you're going to make these reports by 5, you have to stop counting ballots an hour or two ahead of that.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, here, let's do this. We'll say the report is due on the day, not at a specific time. So you can count ballots till 10 o'clock and then turn your report in at 11, but give us a firm number. And they're like, okay, that makes sense. And so we kind of compromised on that, and we kept an estimate out of that count so that we could have some numbers that are really close.
I like that.
Yeah, there were a couple reporters that were right on top of Salt Lake County numbers. There's only 60,000 ballots left. There's only 40,000 ballots left. Wait, now it's back up to 70. I mean, it just went up and down, back and forth.
Even worse yet. Well, and this was all public, but there's somebody I know who actually put together a spreadsheet of every public statement that was being made about those ballots in Salt Lake County from anybody in the elections office. And there were, within hours of each other, extremely variant, is that a word, numbers being given for the ballots. It did not make sense. People within the office were confused about what was going on. And that is not a good way to instill confidence.
Right.
Yeah. So this is great.
That's something, another thing I really wanted in the bill. And I actually had even my really right-leaning people question this at first, but I said, I want registered. If you want to be a poll watcher, you have to be a registered voter in Utah.
Excellent.
And one of my right-leaning guys, call my tinfoil hat guy. He was like, well, I don't know if you really need that. Sometimes you have people come in from out of state. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if we have an issue, like we get these ballot initiatives that come from across the country, and then they're going to bus in or fly in some people to watch our poll. I'm like, if it's not important enough to a citizen that's registered in Utah, then it's not important to me. So I said, you have any individual who is a registered or pre-registered, you could get some 17-year-olds that are pre-registered a voter in Utah. So now that's somebody that's likely going to be voting and is a resident. So that was something I was really kind of insistent on, and everybody like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So.
Nice.
Yeah, really nice. I looked at a couple, just as we finish up, I looked at a couple of bills today that dealt with voting integrity. And yours did not have nearly as many changes and substitutes as some of what I was looking
Well,
at.
we got the third draft coming out tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I was thinking, wait, Carolyn, you're going to speak too soon.
We just changed it about 2 hours ago or 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
But they're very minor changes.
Okay. Yeah, I literally looked at one. I was texting with a rep and said, hey, what's up with these changes? I'd heard this, that about this bill, and there's a substitute, and literally this substitute, you know how you can take a look at what's changed from one bill to the next? And the entire thing was crossed out. So I think someone just dropped a new bill in there. Or they did.
Yeah,
they substituted with something all new, it seems.
Yeah.
So
I think it's funny that you're referencing, tinfoil hats when you're the guy running the legislation on election integrity.
I own one and wear it many times. Yeah.
Good, because I was going to say
that. When I say tinfoil hat, it's in no way a negative term, because in fact, I saw a meme the other day that I thought was really funny. It says, I need to get me some more theories because all of my old ones came true.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep,
exactly.
I've seen that. And I was going to say, I do have a tinfoil hat that you are welcome to anytime.
Yeah. Here's another thing we did. We required that the clerks must post a 3-day schedule, 3 days in advance of any time they're going to be counting ballots.
Oh.
So could ever be able to claim that there's an issue. Now, we did give them an opportunity to change that schedule with a 24-hour notice, because sometimes you might have an issue with the machine or something, you need to go late. But I talked to the person, they're like, well, the first day or two, we're just going to we're counting from 7 a.m. until midnight. And I'm like, for sure. And if you ended at 7 o'clock, who cares? Just don't ever count when you haven't posted it, 24-hour notice. The same requirement of us in the legislature.
Right.
Well, what about kicking people?
Open meeting.
What about kicking people out and then continuing to count?
Well, that would violate the 6-foot rule. Yeah. Violate the 6-foot rule, and you cannot do any ballot processes without notice. So yeah, they shouldn't be able to do that.
Okay. So you've covered a whole lot of bases with this bill. We appreciate that.
Let's see if there's another one. Well, we did have some logs required. So one of the guys that kind of studied Salt Lake County, they would go and find the, Lieutenant Governor shall provide to each election officer a standard form on which election officer shall maintain a log of all replicated ballots. So what was happening was they got a hold of these pages, and they're handwritten, replicated ballots, and then somebody had spilled juice on it or pop or something, or soda, however you like to say that, and they were illegible or the handwriting wasn't good. So we said, okay, here's that you have to identify in the form the same things that they're doing. The Lieutenant Governor's office is going to give everybody a standardized form so they can fill that out. It does say the log maintained described in Section 3B is in a complete and legible manner. So it needs to be legible. And then it says at the end of each day on which one or more ballots are replicated, make an electronic copy of the log and keep the log for 22 months. So you take that paper, you're going to scan it, you're going to keep a file that hopefully can't be corrupted or whatever, read-only file of the log, and then keep that on file. So hopefully that'll kind of standardize that process. and hopefully it'll be legible, and they'll have paper copy and electronic copy that should match. So,
Okay. So, you know what? I do have to ask because I said we'd talk about it quickly. There isn't a lot to cover in it, but your municipal elections bill, just a few little changes in reporting requirements, aren't there in that one?
my municipal.
Is it?
When is it?
Oh, gee. I don't have it in
Disclosure.
front of me. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, this was my idea.
Okay, this is Representative Strong's awesome wife, Cindy, which he's
So what
heard this many
happened-
times
I have a bad
that,
memory.
you know, maybe Cindy.
So what happened is, at least here in Bluffdale,
Oh, this
because
was
this was the first
financial
time
reporting.
we were using
Yeah.
ranked choice voting, and we were trying to just look up some of the candidates and where they were getting their money, who was supporting them, and it turned out that, I mean, the ballots came out, 2 weeks, however many, quite a
Almost
ways
3 weeks.
before
Yeah.
election. And I thought, and they don't have to report that since they didn't have a primary, there was no disclosure deadline before the ballots came out.
It was 7 days before the election day, and mail-in ballots were coming out a couple weeks before that. So people that got their wanted to look at the financial report never got one because there was no primary, and didn't get one until 7 days before. Yeah, this is.
And they could
This
have
is her
already
bill.
voted. Yeah.
I just am like, okay, people need to go on and be able to see through the disclosure where the candidate got his money before they vote on it.
Gotcha.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, there's always a story with these bills, right? I looked at that and I thought, okay, their reporting requirement changes. There has to be a reason for this. And I wonder what they are and what's going on in municipal elections. So thank you for sharing that with us, Cindy.
Yeah, so we kept all the other reporting the same, 7 days. I think
Okay.
it's like 28 after the election, and then we did one other little thing in there. There was some discrepancy between a municipal election and a county election. If you miss your reporting day in a county election, you have a 24-hour grace period. So the clerk can reach out to you and say, hey, you didn't file. Are you out, or are you going to file? And you could then file with a $50 fine, I think, if you will. And with the city or municipality, it was, if you missed it, you were disqualified. No little grace period. So we just made them the same. So you get a little grace period, and you got a 24-hour to turn that in if you forgot. If you missed that, then you're disqualified.
Well, I think we had a lawsuit over that in Draper. I'm in Draper. And there was a lawsuit over that maybe 2 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, in very recent years, just a couple years ago. Anyway, and guy missed the deadline and he was off the ballot. So, okay, that's great. Thank you. Thanks for letting
That's
us.
everything I know about elections.
Well, good, and you have it all in a bill. So 2 bills. So
2 bills. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us, Representative. We're glad that you're out there doing the good work that you're doing, and we appreciate all of the sacrifice.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to hearing from the millions of people that are going to be listening to this.
Yeah,
Well, they are.
It
They're in
will
the
be
millions.
millions. Yeah.
There's at least 4 of us.
That's right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
And we need to thank Fosmu,
Yes,
our
we do.
awesome producer. Say something, Fosmu.
You're welcome. And, it's been a lot of fun.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us on another episode of Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn. You can find us on any of the places that you find your favorite podcast. Please give us a subscribe, and we are enjoying your comments, and helpful to like and share this if you like what you're hearing. Please share with your friends, and want to bring to your mind that filing for elections
Yes.
is next week, February 28th. So we hope we're inspiring you to maybe run or at least support good candidates out there. So next week is, again, is filing deadlines for, we've got Congress, we've got half of the Senate and every House member, and then a number of county elections. So a lot of things going on. State board of education elections as well. So so keep that in mind. Nudge some great friends to run and file as a candidate if you don't like the person that's casting the votes now. And there's some crazy stuff still coming in the legislature. So again, thank you so much for listening to Straight Talk with Kim and Carolyn.